Addverb is your quintessential robotics company. So where we have your pallet shuttles, carton shuttles, we have the AMRs, autonomous mobile robots. We are entering into the humanoid space as well.
Do they have some sense of emotions, or how can we say that we can coexist in harmony with the humans?
That's where the importance of software comes in, right? So typically you have the software which is acting as the brain and the nervous system for all these robots. We have the autonomous nervous system, which is like the habitual behavior which we all have.
What recently changed that you guys are also exporting the hardware and the technology that comes with it to several countries?
Robotics has a prime presence in India or potential in India. Today, robotics is about how efficiently you can orchestrate these bots. Hardware is no longer the primary differentiator.
Why do we have a need for humanoid?
If you are solving problems which do not need a human-like form factor, you don't need a humanoid.
Do you remember that movie Shahid Kapoor and Kriti Sanon? Kriti Sanon was a robot, but that will never happen in reality, right?
One thing I have learned with this whole generative AI thing is never say never.
India is globally known for its software talent, but today a new shift is happening where technology is moving beyond screens and entering factories and warehouses across the country. आज के एपिसोड में हम बात करेंगे रोबोटिक्स और ऑटोमेशन की एंड हाउ दीज टेक्नोलॉजीज आर शेपिंग द फ्यूचर ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इन इंडिया. To help us understand this journey in a simple and practical way, we're joined by Mr. Bharanidharan, Deputy General Manager Software at Addverb, one of India's leading robotics and automation companies. So let's get started and explore how robots are becoming a real part of business operations, jobs, and India's growth story.
So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Bhanni, and it's a pleasure to have you at Indian Business Times podcast.
Thanks for this opportunity. It's glad for me as well. Nice to interact with you.
Right. So I'm very much excited also to know about you and what your company does, because as I've read, it's into a lot of automation AI, and you especially reinforce a lot of warehouses and factories with more technology.
Adverb is a company which started in 2016. Next year, we'll be completing our 10 years. So we work with a lot of companies in digitizing their supply chains. We are into the space of intralogistics. We build automated intelligent warehouses. That's the gist of what Adverb does. We use a healthy mix of hardware and software to solve interesting problems for end customers so that their supply chains can be both resilient and responsive.
Okay. So how do you make these warehouses quite tech ready? What happens at the background?
So it typically starts with us understanding what kind of problem the customer is trying to solve. So typically a warehouse is trying to juggle between multiple things, right? It's either space or accuracy or speed. So with specific customers, we understand whether it is one out of the three or all three. We try to understand which specific part of the intralogistics they want to address. So let's say it's the picking related portion of their operations. So how I would solve it for an each picking solution where let's say I'm working with an eyewear manufacturer to automate their picking operations for eyewears. Vis-a-vis, I'm working with a food manufacturing entity to automate distribution of full pallets. So we feel the essence is in understanding the customer's pain point. Because of that, so we have members of our team who have heavy industrial experience so that we can put ourselves in the shoes of the customer. So typically we understand their problems and then we give them a solution which is neither just hardware products nor just software, but an amalgamation of both so that we take care of the orchestration for them.
So what do we mean by hardware here?
So Adverb is your quintessential robotics company. So where we have your pallet shuttles, carton shuttles, we have the AMRs, autonomous mobile robots, and we even have robots. We are entering into the humanoid space as well. So all of these physical products, which are actually doing the activity at the warehouse, these are what I'm calling as the hardware products. These could also be the conveyors. So we broadly categorize them as fixed automation and flexible automation. So the hardware products are typically the ones which are manufactured right here in India at a large scale in our factories in Bot Valley and Botwas. So these products then are orchestrated by a brain, which is our software, which takes care of both solving robot-specific problems as well as the collective solution where multiple robots coexist in harmony. that's the gist of what I meant by hardware and software amalgamation.
Okay. Since you mentioned robots, so how do Addverb robots typically look like? I mean, are they, and then you also mentioned that you're working on humanoids.
Mhm.
How not to be confused with a humanoid with a robot or vice versa?
See, I would say humanoid is a logical evolution for your typical robot. So I'll come to why I say that, but typically robots are purpose-built machines. So their form is typically driven by the factor for which they are produced. So if I'm, let's say, having a robot which is moving material from point A to point B, it makes sense for it to have wheels.
Okay.
Our dynamos, which are our autonomous mobile vehicles, these are like floating pads of sorts. But at the same time, let's say if a robot is taking care of high speed activity in a warehouse where I'm sorting material within the warehouse. So our Zippy, which is our smaller product, which is like a swarm of multiple bots coexisting together. So that typically is smaller in stature, but quite quick. In fact, the term Zippy is for the sound with which it travels, zip of sorts. So the short answer to your question is that in a robot, typical robot, the form is what is driven by the purpose for which it is built. And in many of these problems, we have figured out that because it is solving fixed problems, there is no point in emulating a human in their body, right? Now,
Right.
coming to your question on humanoids, humanoids are more to coexist with your human beings at the warehouse. So you need bots which are thinking and acting like human beings. Let's say if I'm trying to have an activity where a person is unloading a vehicle and I want to kind of have a humanoid deployed there, I would want a humanoid which has arms and places it on the conveyor. So a humanoid, I would say, is a logical evolution for a bot, but all bots do not typically look like humans, right?
Correct. Right. So when you say that humanoids are meant to think like a human, so how do we know what they're thinking? I mean, are they emotional? Do they have some sense of emotions, or how can we say that they can coexist in harmony with the humans?
See, typically that's where the importance of software comes in, right? So typically you have the software which is acting as the brain and the nervous system for all these robots. So if I were to draw a parallel to a human being, since we are comparing to humanoid, we have the autonomous nervous system, which is like the habitual behavior which we all have. So the embedded controls layer in a bot is what is taking care of these aspects. Let's say if I have to spin a wheel at a particular speed, if I have to take turns at a specific point, this is your autonomous nervous system, which is controlled by the embedded software portion of it. There is also the perception layer, which is like the visual cortex if you compare with the human being again. So the perception layer is what is helping the bot constantly be up to speed with what it is perceiving in its environment. So if I have an autonomous mobile robot, it is navigating inside a warehouse, which is a constantly perturbed environment. It needs to be able to sense what is happening in its periphery, what is happening right in front of it. And the visual cortex, which is the perceptive sensors on a bot, the LiDAR systems, if you may, these are the ones which are giving in that input. Now, next comes the collective intelligence. And this is where you have layers like the fleet management, the warehouse execution software. The collective intelligence is probably where a robot is slightly different compared to a typical human being. In a typical human being, we have the society and culture driving these things. But for a bot, it is the fleet management system which knows that, okay, this particular node is probably conflicted by two different bots and those kind of things. So the three layers in which a robot needs assistance is provided to it by its software, some of which it is on it and some of which it is outside it and controlling it. So, and that's why they say, right, today's robots are typically computers on wheels. So you need software inherently at multiple layers to actually give it that intelligence.
Right. So do these softwares also work in real time? For example, you want the robot to take a right turn, at a particular time. So will you have that commanded before, or it can happen in real time also? I mean, maybe let's say you're looking at a computer screen on your software and you're looking at all the maps that you have. So if you want them to take a right turn and do a particular task, can that also be managed?
Yes. So definitely, yes, you have real-time tasks being given to the bots based on their perceptive input. The speed of action needs to be so quick that there is no palpable delay when it's seen by, let's say, a naked eye. But at the same time, that immediate horizon is not the only horizon in which the robot is getting assisted by a software. So you typically have a software operating at a strategic, tactical, and an operational layer. The operational layer is probably what you and me just spoke about, where it needs a real-time decision quickly. And for these reasons, sometimes these decisions are being done at an edge level. But you also have that's where roles like of systems like MES, WES, and WMS comes in, where you try to relate with the business forecast of sorts, so as to make these robots intelligent and reactive to what is needed. So if I have to give an example, let's say I'm working on a solution for an instant commerce customer. If I want to keep my bots ready to service orders by by expecting the bot to only react on the basis of orders which I've already given, that is one way I can solve that problem. But if I give it, okay, today's workload is so on and so forth. If you want to prepare something and keep, so that you can ensure that timely delivery of this happens. So that's like your tactical layer of intelligence, which these bots get assisted on. And strategic layer is which layer has how many bots. This is the history of tasks which are there. So in my view, you need software or an orchestrator operating at all these three layers of intelligence.
Okay, so we are saying that behind the scenes, we'll always have a human being who's operating, or maybe overlooking all of these things.
You have layers of intelligence which are modeled to overlook these things. There is no manual need for someone to actually overlook. But software typically takes care of that role by understanding the customer's problem more and having those rules built in as part of workflow managers and such.
All right, great. So the reason I asked this question was I was recently also speaking with a robotic surgeon. I know that I'm mixing the two up, but I recently was speaking to a robotic surgeon, and she told me that inside the operation theaters, even if there's a robot who is operating, there is always a human doctor who is giving those commands to that robot. So this is what I was, confused about, that in warehouses or factories, everything that a robot does is already, they've already been fed that information. They're used to act in a particular way and do the repetitive tasks. But you're saying that we necessarily do not have to have a human being behind the computer screen who is giving all those commands in the software in real time or anything like that.
I use this opportunity to talk about Addverb's mission, right? It's about creating possibilities by human and robots coexisting together, right? So the idea is that you don't need a human constantly hand holding a bot, but at the same time, it is not that the human being's purpose or intelligence is not being put to use. So if you honestly ask me, with all this advent of robotics, it's really a point of displacement rather than replacement. So when I say displacement, so we want the human being's intelligence working on higher order tasks. So today the robots will take care of your 3Ds. So typically you will want your dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks to be taken over by bots. And you don't want your average warehouse operator spending time moving in the factory and looking for things. But at the same time, if we were to elevate the average worker in the factory or a warehouse to have technical skills to supervise a group of bots or to understand what kind of problems occur in a fleet management system or a warehouse execution system, implicitly we are upskilling his or her day in a warehouse. So that's one way to say how humans can also make a fleet of bots more efficient. In a similar manner, we all know that India, with its mix of age and the amount of opportunities which are there, there is definitely a capacity problem which is there as well, right? So might not be as applicable in a surgical context, but their precision will come in handy. But in a typical warehouse, there is a limit to the number of people you can put and how quickly they can do. Today, we are the amount of expectations or differentiators end customer wants. I want my order delivered in 10 days. I want my spectacle delivered within the same day if I'm in a particular city. You can't look at that problem with unlimited human capital. And that's where I feel having your bots, which are intelligent and can assist the human operators, is going to be of strategic importance for any company. And it also makes your supply chain resilient, right? In history, if you see, a lot of heavily human present sections have likelihood of attrition, have likelihood of uprisings and all those things. And that is where if you have humans working on intelligent problems, you have bots taking care of these non-intelligent things for them to take care of. So That's where I feel we can achieve that optimal mix of bots taking care of the dull, dirty, and dangerous parts, while the human being contribute towards the perceptive and intelligent problem statements.
Right. Right. So India typically has been more, known for its software or known for being an IT hub. And what recently changed that you guys are also exporting the hardware and the technology that comes with it to several countries?
See, I feel it's a logical evolution. I would say robotics has a prime presence in India or potential in India, not despite it being a software power, but because it is a software power. The reason I say that is today robotics is about how efficiently you can orchestrate these bots. So hardware is no longer the primary differentiator. If you see how quickly or how efficiently you can orchestrate these hardwares, and our comfort with software kind of makes us solve these problems efficiently with intelligent software. Along the same time, there was also this whole Make in India ecosystem which was flourishing. There is a lot of production linked incentives which makes hardware manufacturing cost efficient. So there was a clear opportunity for adoption of robotics even in our country, and that is also a reason why I feel there is a clear shift in where we are going. And I was speaking to some of my batchmates who are settled abroad. These things like Blinkit, Instamart are all not very popular there. So 10-minute deliveries, these things are things which India is taking the lead on. And there is a need for automation because that scale cannot be achieved with just human capital, right? So I feel these are 2 or 3 interplays which are leveraging on our software foundation to make us move towards a robotics power hub.
Right. Right. Okay. Fair enough. So for the audience to properly understand how does robotic automation can give real-time results. So can you share an example of, what was before and after your systems were implemented?
See, okay, I'll take your quintessential warehouse example, right? So let's just say I'm a person buying a specs. 10 years back, I went to the warehouse. I went to the optician. He assessed my power, and he kind of tells me that come back in a week. And I go back. I have to make sure that I have an alternate specs in place and all that.
Right.
Now, fast forward 10 years now. Today, if you go walk into a lens cart store in the mall, your power is getting checked real time. Now, behind the scenes, what is happening in an Addverb powered warehouses? We already have received inventory for manufacturing the specs and stored it intelligently based on the demand patterns which are existing for specific lenses and specific frames. So if Hustler is a very popular, let's say, frame which is bought by customers, my software has the intelligence to keep Hustler in a faster retrievable position. And the moment the order kicks in, rather than the picker going across, let's say, huge racks and aisles of storage, today the picker stands stationary in a GTP station, goods to person station, and my automation brings the Hustler frames for him. And he just is given the guidance on a screen as to how much he or she needs to pick, and he or she places it there. Now, because there is a software driving this, the person does not actually have to worry too much about which item am I picking, where am I placing it. It's all assisted in the visual layer as well by our PTLs, our software screens, and the likes. And the moment I acknowledge that I've completed the picking, there are possibilities to integrate it with the courier partner so that he or she can come on a need basis. And the whole demand to fulfillment cycle has come down drastically from a week to 3 hours, 4 hours. So that's the kind of strategic shift which automation provides, both in terms of accuracy, scale, while taking care of those 3Ds which I spoke about earlier.
Right. Right. So, talking about all of this, I do feel that there's a lot of need for automation in case we want faster deliveries, especially, when we think about 10 minutes delivery. So what do you think if tomorrow, instead of 10 minutes delivery, somehow the industry starts making it 2 hours delivery? Will the same kind of automation be required, or will it, it'll take a hit or something like that?
If it's 2 hours delivery, then all the companies will work towards a differentiation in terms of doing it more efficiently, more accurately, with lesser people and the likes of it, right? So I would say automation. The beauty of automation is that it can adapt to the customer's problem statement. Today, with 10-minute delivery, the problem statement is probably scale. Tomorrow, with the 2-hour delivery shift which you called out, the problem statement is efficiency. And the beauty is that we might not have solved for it in the instant commerce market, but we would have solved for efficiency in a different industry already. And by that extension, I believe that automation can always catch up. And that's where India's comfort with software allows its software also to kind of be configurable and modular such that you can react and be proactive to changing demands as well, right? So I think regardless of whatever problem statement there is, the situation can be adopted for automation's advantage.
Correct. Right. So people often worry that robots are going to take their jobs. According to you, what is the reality?
Like I said, you gave the example of your robotic surgeon interaction, which you there. If given a choice, I think the surgeon would any day want to focus on the thinking part of the surgery, while the doing is kind of outsourced to the arm, right? So I feel the beauty is in coexisting and letting the robots take care of the repetitive things which need precision, while the human mind can focus on higher order things as to what more surgeries can I do more efficiently, or how can I pick faster? So how can I orchestrate it faster? Which problem needs my attention more rather than doing the more urgent things, right? So I feel it's like an elevation of what a person can do. And for that reason, I feel it is an imagined problem that robots will replace human beings. And that's why you see products like these collaborative bots and all coming in, right? These are about collaboration with the humans. So I don't think bots are here to replace, but coexist in an orchestrated symphony.
Right. So recently, I was also going across a lot of reels, videos, especially I remember Mark Zuckerberg also launching a humanoid, but that humanoid, I think he collapsed on stage. So are we still, when are we going to see a perfect robot which does not collapse on stage? I think it just recently happened with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, this makes me remember that scene in Iron Man, right? So Iron Man 2, where that minister kind of has a fleet of made Iron Mans, and that actual Iron Man kind. I think humanoids, we are leveraging the whole AI, generative AI growth to actually fast pace the humanoid evolution. But if you ask me whether humanoid is the full essence of robotics, I wouldn't say so. Because like I said, you have today something which started off a few decades ago, like the multi-axle robot, which picks up heavy items and places onto a pallet. Today, if I have to give you examples, Addverb tries to solve 4 categories of problems for the customer. So you are either storing items vertically, you are retrieving items, picking. So store, pick, move, sort. These are the 4 category of solutions which we work with customers on. I feel today the bots in these place are kind of established. So a stacker crane is not something where you will have irrelevance. So we have sites where 20 odd cranes are working in symphony to actually ensure that the pallet is retrieved as per need. We have Zippies. So in many third-party logistics providers, we have given fleet of 100 odd Zippies, where these Zippies are reliably moving the end customer's parcel and sorting it onto the dedicated destination chute. I feel humanoid, maybe we are on the learning curve, but there are a lot of bots where we've already mastered what means to be an efficient robot, and we are seeing the results of that in adoption as well.
Of course. Which brings me to another question. Why do we think that humanoids are required? When all the other robots, which are not humanoids, they are efficiently taking care of repetitive tasks, and so why do we have a need for humanoids?
If you are solving problems which do not need a human-like form factor, you don't need a humanoid. A typical case being, I'll use this opportunity to talk about the robot dogs, right? These are quite popular as well, the quadrupeds. So sorry?
I'm saying they're also beaten up on wheels.
Yeah, correct.
dog robots and
So our tracker is our four-legged robot. So trackers, these can walk over uneven terrain, they can climb stairs, they can navigate unstructured environment. Primarily, these will be used for patrolling fences. They can inspect remote pipelines. So today, you asked this question about a before-after scenario. Today, if you are needing to inspect a huge oil warehouse, oil factory, oil manufacturing factory, you probably are dependent on some security guards patrolling the environment. But 1 or 2 years down the line, I feel the robot dogs will totally take over that. Now, that is a problem statement where you do not need a human form factor. And that is why you are creating a form factor which is similar to the need it serves, a dog. Now, coming to your question on why humanoids are needed, if you are if you are trying to replicate problems which are today solved by humans, for that you might need human-like form factor. Like a simple example is, let's say I need a humanoid to open the door, a door opening. So that this was the typical human bot which we used to see a decade ago, right? Someone standing at the entrance of a marriage hall, which is just inviting the people who are coming in. So if you want to focus on problems which human beings are solving at scale, that is where I feel humanoids come in. And a lot of these factories, you spoke about the example of surgeries where the fine dexterity which comes with the hand, these are needed. That's where I feel humanoids application is going to be much more. And that's why you are seeing large scale adoption or attempts to making a humanoid as well. But I feel the big picture is going to be a mix of both form-based bots as well as human-like bots, if you ask me.
So you remember that movie, Shahid Kapoor and Kriti Sanon? Kriti Sanon was a robot.
Yeah.
But that will
Correct.
never happen in reality, right? Such kind of robots.
If you had to ask me whether ChatGPT will make a presentation for me in 5 minutes, I would have probably said never 2 years back. But one thing I have learned with this whole generative AI thing is never say never. So you never know.
So such robots can be expected in the future.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Only time will tell.
Right. So what made you?
I was in the industry as an end customer of these automation systems. I am a software engineer by undergraduation, and then I happened to major in industrial management. And as part of my industrial management placement, I got into high-scale automated factories where I saw the opportunity which robotics had for someone who's interested in solving in interesting problems. So if the problem is about scale, about dexterity, about connecting it to the bigger picture. So I saw boxes getting ticked on what kind of average day I want to spend, like optimizing business intelligence versus automation intelligence. These are all things which made me feel that robotics is probably a good industry to be in.
Right. And where do you see India by 2030, at least in robotics and automation?
See, I feel there is a clear shift. I feel we are no longer importers in robotics. Even Addverb takes pride in being a robotics company which makes in India for the world. So we have presence in across 10 countries now, 10 global offices which are there. So that is one clear shift which I'm seeing, that India is no longer going to be an importer in terms of robotics. The second aspect is I see a lot of democratization happening for these bots. Today or 2 or 3 years before, probably your large scale companies which have established presence, those are probably the only adopters of robotics. But over the next 3-4 years, I see that even our MSMEs might take intelligent investments into robotics so that their operations can be more efficient. And I also feel that there is a lot of opportunity for India to establish its presence as a global supply chain excellence hub in terms of robotics. So a lot of Western countries are looking at us as a potential de-risking opportunity as well as a diversification opportunity in terms of robotics talent. And I feel with our software prowess and the learnings which we are having as part of manufacturing practices and all, I feel that's also something which we'll very much be able to bridge over the next few years.
I'm sure. So what is the biggest misconception or myths about robots that you wish people would stop believing?
Okay. One of my favorite movies as I was growing up was Terminator. So Arnold's I'm back, baby, right? So I feel today when people hear the word robot, they think of this robots are hyper intelligent beings which are plotting constantly to actually take over the world, or
Right.
which are kind of always over always having the ability to overpower a human, or those are all misconceptions in my view. I feel robots are sometimes very fragile and are also very literal. They are very dependent on their perceptive sensors and the software to actually make the right decisions. They don't have emotions or intent like we might believe in our fictitious worlds. I feel robots are machines which are made for a specific purpose. The more clear we are with the purpose, I feel the better they function. And that is where I feel it is important for us to actually understand that it's it's not like your typical Terminator. So that would be the way I would differentiate.
Fair enough. Good explanation to that. So a lot of young Indians might want
Mhm.
to get into robotics and technology, advanced technologies like that. So what would you want to tell them? What should they do? How should they pursue it?
See, I feel that for someone who is interested in being a problem solver, there are a lot of problems to solve with technology. And for the youth of the nation, I'd like to call out that we should no longer be consumers of technology, but rather creators of technology. I see that in a lot of industries, we are already making headways as being the go-to destination in terms of how to use technology innovatively and with passion to solve that problem. And I feel with the right skill set, with the right foundational principles, and some of the industry driven as well as need driven economics which are in place, I feel India has the right marketplace to actually try out these solutions so that we no longer are always in a borrowing state. We are in the contributing state. So I feel as youth of this country, we should take pride in that fact and look forward to solving problems with high quality engineering solutions.
Right, right. So would you say that to become a robotics engineer, you need a formal degree as well, or you just have to have an knack for it and not
I
have
would
a
say
formal?
I would say you should have an act for it because the pace at which things are growing, a degree can only get you prepared so far, right? So, if you were to ask me 10 years back whether I would be in a robotics company, I wouldn't say so. So, the beauty of robotics as a field is that any discipline has application in it. Computer science has application, electronics has application, your typical mechanical has application by mechatronics. So I think engineering discipline will be more about helping you get onto that table, but it is more about how adaptive and how constantly in the quest of improving oneself that we can actually get ourselves ready for being a robotics professional.
Right, right. And one last question. I
Mhm.
wanted to ask this earlier, but what's with the name?
So when Adverb started, right, before humans, robots, and possibilities, there was actually the tagline was adding intelligence to motion. Verb is the kind of doing stuff, right? So adverb has its origin from actually adding this intelligence to motion and kind of taking care of all these 3Ds which you want the human being not to worry about. And from that perspective, because we are into the field of automation, it was about, so that's the justification or origins behind the name.
So I think Bhani, we've had a good podcast, and
Mhm.
it was wonderful talking to you and getting all those insights about what Adverb does and how Adverb is contributing towards India's manufacturing and automation sector. It was great speaking with you.
It was my pleasure, Akshay. It was a good chat on a topic which is very close to my heart. And I think the opportunities are aplenty in this field and we all can benefit from
And I look forward to having a robot like Kriti Sanon as we had in the
it. Of course. Yeah. Never say never, right?
Bhani. I'll see you again.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Akshay.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye.
If you want us to do more podcasts like this and keep educating you on latest technology and stuff, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.